A very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News. This is Friday night's calendar.
Yes, good evening. Here are tonight's main stories.
Put into perspective for us just how much that one moment of madness has taken away from you.
Everything.
The mother of a man from Chesterfield killed by a single punch welcomes an Emmerdale storyline written in the hope it can help avoid similar tragedies.
If there's just one person who thinks again, then we've done our job.
Aidan Aslan, the soldier from Newark who was captured by pro-Russian forces in Ukraine, on his plans to return to the war-torn country.
Our new scam is catching more people out, with fraudsters conning victims out of millions of pounds.
The rain did arrive this afternoon. Winds are the focus into the weekend, mixed with sunshine and showers, so we'll still need the shades for Saturday and Sunday. Your weekend forecast coming up.
And find out why I'm hundreds of feet up, looking for an ancient Egyptian.
Yes, all will be revealed later in the programme. Good evening. First tonight, the mother of a man in Chesterfield who died after a single punch on a night out has urged others to think before they act, to spare any other family the anguish she's having to endure.
The family of Chris Henchliff have just marked 7 years since his death. At the same time, a storyline on Emmerdale played out heartbreaking echoes of the circumstances in which he died.
Millions of viewers are watching the story unfold, where character Dan Spencer knocked out his screen daughter's stalker and has left him critically ill. For Chris Henchliff's mum, the TV fiction is sadly all too real. Michael Billington has our top story.
Me and her are going to be seeing a little bit more of each other. Maybe even a lot more of each other. And there's nothing you can do about it.
The moment life for Dan Spencer's character, played by actor Liam Fox, begins to fall apart. He's arrested and seen in jail as the man he attacks fights for his life after he was struck by a single punch.
The research that I have done on these things as well, it's just sad. It's sad for everybody concerned, because 9 times out of 10, the person who's done that punch, it has been a split-second thing. It hasn't been premeditated. And, you know, their families lost them, and the person that they've killed, they've lost that person. It's just all about loss, and it's just not worth it. People just need to think. And I'm just hoping that by doing this storyline, if there's just one person who thinks again, then we've done our job.
They know that I'm lying. About the self-defence.
Yeah, who cares? Nobody saw anything.
Maybe I deserve it.
The dramatic storyline highlights the potentially lethal consequences throwing a single punch can bring. Consequences the family of Chris Henchliff from Chesterfield know only too well. The 26-year-old veteran of the war in Afghanistan was hit by a complete stranger in a one-punch attack on a night out in the town 7 years ago this week.
Just decided to take a pot shot, ran straight across and punched him straight in the face. And Chris went straight down. I think he passed out before he hit the floor, so he couldn't use his hands or anything to reach out to stop his fall. And obviously Chris ended up in a coma for a long time after that. On his second operation, he had a stroke and obviously didn't make it. And that's when they took him off life support.
Chris's attacker was jailed for 5.5 years for manslaughter. He's since been released. Since her son's death, Yvonne has fought to raise awareness of the dangers of just one punch.
Think before you punch. It is as simple as that. Think first. Just take a deep breath. Think before you punch.
Put into perspective for us just how much that one moment of madness has taken away from you.
Everything. Everything. Every day is a struggle. Every single day. None of us will ever be the same.
A reality and its aftermath for Yvonne and her family mirrored on screen this week for all to see. Michael Billington, ITV News in Chesterfield.
For your daughter's sake.
And our thoughts are with Yvonne at this difficult time. A man accused of the murder of West Yorkshire Police Constable Sharon Beshanivsky 18 years ago will stand trial next year. 38-year-old PC Beshanivsky was killed in November 2005. She was responding to a reported robbery in Bradford. The mother of three had only worked for the force for 9 months. Pirandita Khan appeared at Sheffield Crown Court over video link. He didn't enter a plea and is due back in court in October.
He was the former soldier who travelled to a war-torn country and ended up being captured and tortured by the enemy. You might remember Aidan Aslin from Newark, who spent months in what he calls a Russian torture chamber.
But since he returned home, freed after negotiations between the government, Saudis and even former Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich, he's been back and now he plans to move there for good. Helen Steele reports.
I think my biggest problem at the moment is like anxiety and like panic attacks. So I'm still like learning to cope with those.
It's been 15 months since Aidan Aslin was captured and tortured by Russian soldiers. 10 months since he was suddenly released.
So obviously you've been home a few months now. Has it had time to sink in?
I was like struggling a lot with like the mental side of dealing with the stress from like being like in captivity. Like I started experiencing like symptoms and stuff like that, and eventually I reached out to Hostage International, who were able to like help me with like superimposed like not hallucinations, but like I'd see things like an explosion and then I would feel the shockwave.
Aidan had moved to Ukraine in 2018, met his fiancée Diana and signed up for the army. By March last year, war was raging. Aidan's battalion was under siege in Mariupol. He was captured, tortured and used as propaganda by the Russians.
We're just waiting for the command now to lay down our arms.
Despite all that, he's since returned to Ukraine.
This is my house after 1 year of no one being here.
His house in Mykolaiv in ruins, ravaged by war and winter. He now plans to return again, this time for good. From his home in Newark, he hopes to complete a sale on a house by the end of the month and work again on the front line, but this time as a journalist.
I think the only stuff that I would be afraid of really is just getting captured again. Don't want that to happen.
Do you not think there's a risk of that?
There's always a risk of it, but like looking at the conflict now, like it's going to drag on for as long as it is, and I'm going to avoid putting myself into a situation that might entail captivity again, which I really want to avoid.
But despite that, there is a slight risk and you're still prepared to take it?
Yeah.
Aidan says he now wants to continue the fight for Ukraine using words, not war. He's written a book about his experience.
And there are people who would say, why did you go in the first place? Will this book answer that question?
Well, the biggest three questions people will have is like, why did I go there? What was captivity like? And like, why would you go back? And I hope people are like satisfied, like when they read it and like understand that it's not a book about me, like per se. It's a book that gives you understanding about why I went there.
There are many who'll never understand why Aidan is returning, but he says Ukraine is now his home and where his heart is. Helen Steele, ITV News in Newark.
Staff at Yorkshire Ambulance Service took more industrial action today. It's the latest strike in their long-running dispute over pay and staffing levels. While some union members accepted the government's most recent pay offer, Unite the Union rejected it, saying it failed to address the crisis of the NHS. The government says it's hoping they'll reconsider.
Up to 8,000 jobs and £1.2 billion in funding by 2030 has been promised for South Yorkshire. The county has been named as the UK's first investment zone with a focus on advanced manufacturing. The Chancellor announced the news today, saying it will help to level up the region.
We want to end once and for all this idea that if you want a well-paid job, you've got to move down south. And if you've got one of the world's most respected manufacturers, Boeing, investing here, you've got an incredibly powerful way to attract some of the most important jobs of the future.
Our estimates are we think it'll be £1.2 billion of investment that will come into South Yorkshire as a result of this investment zone, and probably about 8,000 jobs just over the next 5 years alone. But more than that, actually, it shows that South Yorkshire is turning a corner. We're clearly kind of on the up, so it's really good news for everyone.
Tributes have been paid to a prominent equalities campaigner following her sudden death. Heather Nelson was the chief executive of the Leeds Black Health Initiative and also worked as a magistrate. In a statement, Leeds City Council said she was a wonderful person who worked tirelessly to make a positive difference to people's lives. It said it would work with Heather's family to celebrate her remarkable life. Now then, your watching calendar. Still to come before 6:30. We're in Harrogate as the Great Yorkshire Show comes to a close. Who did we meet there today, I wonder?
And how a maze in York is marking a century since one of history's greatest discoveries, but you'll need to know where to look. Next, warnings about a new scam where criminals are targeting vulnerable people, especially the elderly.
It's known as courier fraud, where people are fooled into sending cash or their bank cards to criminals through the post or by courier.
Fraudsters pose as bank officials or or police officers over the phone or by email and tell their targets that they need the cooperation in an investigation. Kevin Ashford explains.
It usually begins with a phone call and ends with a victim left distressed and out of pocket. This 90-year-old woman, who we're not identifying, was called by a man posing as her bank manager. He told her money had been taken out of her account and she should immediately post her bank cards to an address he gave her. The man convinced her by giving details like the street name of her nearest bus stop, the name of her local post office branch, and how long her journey would take.
I just broke down in tears. I couldn't believe I'd done it. Because I'm normally so clever. I get on with things and do things. But with that, I just panicked.
The cards were used to take £4,000 out of the woman's account, money she did eventually get back. 2 men were arrested. New figures from the National Fraud Intelligence Bureau show that more than £16 million was lost to courier fraud last year, with the over 70s disproportionately targeted. Losses in that age group totalled more than £12.5 million. West Yorkshire Police say courier fraud is on the rise in the region and people should be wary of suspicious calls.
Just remember that the police, the bank will never ask for your personal details and they will never ask you to withdraw cash. Quite often the tactics are bullying. There'll always be a sense of urgency about it to try and get you on board quickly. Don't be afraid to put the phone down. Just put the phone down and ring somebody from your bank or from the police to make sure that it's a legitimate call.
Fraud is now the most common offence reported to police, making up 1/3 of all crimes committed. Tony Sales was once dubbed Britain's greatest fraudster. He's now reformed and runs a company that helps firms and governments fight fraud. He says courier fraud is just a new spin on an old scam.
If I can pressure you and make you fearful of what I'm telling you and you are not aware of the things that you're not aware to stand back in the moment, you're not aware to give it a thought for a minute, you're actually panicked by what's happened because you've heard it's happened to someone else somewhere or you've heard something somewhere about it, you make decisions that the criminal then wants you to make. And, like I said, fear and panic are 2 tools that criminals have used for centuries.
Being cautious and sceptical can help protect you from courier fraud. For example, by taking the time to verify information, seeking advice from trusted sources, and never rushing into making financial decisions under pressure. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Well, let's get some more on this now, because a little earlier on I spoke to John Komoto from Age UK and I began by asking him what someone should do if they get a suspicious call.
When you get a call from someone purporting to be from your bank or from the police, for example, and telling you to, let's say, call them back on a number that they've given you, I would put the phone down and try and call the police or your bank on a different device so that you are not tricked by the scammers.
And how important is it for people who've received one of these calls to actually tell someone what's happened?
It's extremely important to tell someone that this has happened. In the first instance, I would say contact your bank to let them know, so that if there's anything suspicious that happens after the fact, they can deal with it straight away. Also, it's important to tell, obviously, your family members as well, just in case something similar might be happening to them. So yes, it's very important to tell people about it.
So don't keep it to yourself and don't feel embarrassed about it either.
Definitely not.
Is there a way that people can get their money back?
Yes, there's a way to get your money back, but the unfortunate thing about this type of fraud is that you might hand over cash, which makes it a bit more difficult to get your money back. Also, you might hand over, let's say, your card and your PIN number. So your bank might say, because you acted in a grossly negligent manner, therefore you're at fault and you might not get your money back. But we believe that because obviously the fraudsters have socially engineered the person to act in this way, they should get their money back.
OK, well, that's reassuring to hear. John Komoto from Age UK, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Some good advice there. Now, at 6:30, it's the ITV Evening News. Here's Charlene White with what's making the headlines.
Coming up at 6:30, nearly 1,000 Gatwick Airport staff call a strike for the start of the summer holidays. Passengers face disruption from the end of July and into the first week of August. MPs call for urgent and fundamental reform to NHS dental care amidst stories of patients being forced to pull their own teeth. And the Prince and Princess of Wales and their family attend a rainy Royal International Air Tattoo in Gloucestershire. So do join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Thank you, Charlene. We will. Some sport now, and wheelchair sprinter Hannah Cockcroft maintained her dominance in the T34 100 metres at the World Para-Athletics Championships in Paris last night. Hannah, who's 30 and from Halifax, led from the start of the race, claiming her 6th 100-metre world title and 12th overall. Can you believe it? But she isn't done there. Hannah has another 2 events on Sunday, the 800 metres and the sprint relay. Good luck to her for that.
Former England cricketer Ian Botham is selling off 200 mementos he collected during his time in the game. Amongst those treasured items be one of the wickets from the famous Ashes Test match at Headingley in 1981. That was when Botham almost single-handedly rescued England from the jaws of defeat. The auction will take place at the Oval Cricket Ground in London tomorrow.
It's not great weather for cricket at the moment, is it?
It certainly isn't.
No, but you were lucky this morning, weren't you, Kerry?
Well, I was. It was almost like I knew what was going to happen. It was not cold. It was really quite warm from the word go. It was quite cloudy, but yes, dry. But because I gave the forecast, people were prepared. Check out these beauties from Bradford. They all had umbrella hats and shades, so they were all ready to go for whatever came their way during the course of the day, and had a really good morning, actually. It was pretty busy from the word go. Loads of people, first thing, checking out the stores, checking out our stall as well, where I was all morning with our lovely ITV calendar team. And of course, there was the ITV Emmerdale scene there as well, so it was great. So what I really absolutely loved about this morning was meeting our viewers. It was so nice that people are taking the time to come and see us. I don't know how you felt over the last couple of days, but definitely absolutely loved meeting.
Yeah, I've been blown away by the number of people who've come in to say hello and have maybe wanted a selfie or say they watch the programme every night. There was one couple I met who actually said that if they aren't around to sit down in front of the telly every night, they'll record it and they'll watch it later in the evenings. That's lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant time at the Great Yorkshire
Oh,
Show.
what's that you've got?
I know.
Is it?
It's a manky old blanket, actually, but I met a wonderful lady called Diane who lives in Wakefield, and she made this. She made it 5 years ago when she was on holiday in Hornsey. There she is with me in the calendar marquee at the Great Yorkshire Show. But she made this. She sent it into Emmerdale. It's appeared on the soap. And then, guess what? She saw it on the Dingle sofa at the Great Yorkshire Show, and it's this.
Good heavens, yeah. She couldn't believe her eyes.
So reunited 5 years later. And she said if she'd known it was going to be there, she'd have fixed some of the holes in it.
I don't know, a few holes on the Dingle sofa, it's fine.
Oh, Diane, thank you. That was lovely to meet you.
keeps popping up and then disappearing. I thought, oh, there's a blanket there.
And then what did you think when you saw it today?
It was my daughter saw it.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. Your famous blanket. Who would have
famous
thought? And how long did it take for you to make it?
I don't know, about a couple of months.
Couple of months'
On
work.
and off, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
It is great, isn't it? Yeah.
Great story and a great 4 days, but that's it for this year, isn't it?
I know, I bet they're starting planning the next one now, aren't
Absolutely, I bet it takes a whole year to plan it. It was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, we've got the weekend ahead, haven't we? And tomorrow, I don't know if you know, it's St Swithin's Day. So if it rains tomorrow, it rains apparently for 40 days and 40 nights.
No.
We need one of your umbrella hats.
You do need an umbrella hat, certainly tomorrow, although it'll probably blow away. It's exceptionally windy for July. So if you've got any outdoor activities going on for both Saturday and Sunday, I know there are a lot of weekend events, it will be windy and very gusty. There'll be showers, they could contain hail and thunder, but in between there'll be some lovely sunny spells, and those showers with the winds will rattle through quite quickly during the course of the day, and it will feel quite chilly where we don't get the sunshine, and of course where we get the showers and the winds. The winds are going to make us feel a little bit chilly, I think. So it's not all bad, is it?
It's not at all. We had a good week, haven't we?
We've had a great week, yeah. We've had an
Weather-wise?
absolutely brilliant week.
We have.
Brilliant week weather-wise. I mean, I love a bit of sunshine and showers, but we've also had a great week.
Yeah.
Our team, haven't
That's what I
we?
meant, that we'd had a good week.
Oh, no, we can't. Do you know what I really love?
It's been a long week.
Well, it's always a long week.
It has been a very long week,
Anyway,
actually.
we'll see you in a minute, Kerry. Thank you very much indeed. Now, just a little warning, some flashing images are coming up in just a second. It's school prom time for lots of students who are nearing the end of their school years. And nowadays, youngsters like to arrive in style, but not many make such an arresting entrance as 16-year-old William Barlow from Chesterfield for his Year 11 prom. The teenager who defied cancer to complete his GCSEs was handcuffed and driven to Netherthorpe School in the back of a police van. Charming. It was all thanks to members of the Shirebrook Safer Neighbourhood team at Derbyshire Police who'd heard about his health battle and wanted to do something different to make his end-of-term bash special. There he is, and look at that smile.
Oh, I think he was well chuffed, wasn't he?
He was.
Well done, William. Congratulations on your GCSEs. He's not got his results yet. Finally, it's 100 years since the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb and more than 3,000 years since his death in ancient Egypt.
To mark the anniversary, the York Maze near Elvington has created a spectacular design featuring the boy pharaoh.
It means visitors now really can walk like an Egyptian. Don't do it. They just have to find their way out. We sent Fraser Maud to take a look.
Every summer for 21 years, this field of dreams just outside York gets turned into the most amazing maze. In the past, it's been a tribute to everything from Willy Wonka to Lego to the Mr. Men, from Doctor Who to Thunderbird 2. And with over 100,000 visitors getting lost here every year, it's grown to become one of the city's most popular summer attractions. This year marks the centenary of the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb in Egypt. It made Howard Carter and his sponsor, the Earl of Carnarvon, famous around the world. Now another lost pharaoh, all right, it's farmer and maze master Tom, has brought a bit of ancient Egypt to Yorkshire. Well, I say a bit. It's the size of 8 football pitches, contains over 1 million plants, and has 3 miles of pathways to navigate.
Every year there is something exciting and new, and we're looking around this year. Obviously, it's the 100th anniversary of the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb, and I just thought, I love Egyptology. It's full of mystery and excitement, and in my mind, somehow Egyptology is connected with mazes, Indiana Jones, all that kind of stuff. So I thought, what better theme to do than celebrate the opening of the tomb.
The 5th Earl of Carnarvon died just a few months after Tutankhamun's tomb was opened, and the myth of the mummy's curse was born. Luckily for him, the 8th Earl has so far avoided it.
But it's rather a special year because it's the 100 years since my great-grandfather died in the hour of his triumph in April 1923, and they're having discovered the tomb at the end of the previous year, and they only got the first objects out in the sort of January, February, March time of that year. And it was an extraordinary, it was an early end to his rather amazing life. A man who was a pioneer of travel and exploration, early motor cars, photography, and of course the rather amazing work he did in Egypt.
The maze opens tomorrow, and if you do see Pharaoh Tom, please help him out. His mummy's looking for him. Fraser Maud, ITV News, York.
Oh, you can't say fairer than that, can you?
Oh, well done. Well, it's going to get a good old watering tomorrow, isn't it? Here's Kerry with the details.
Good visibility on the horizon. Tiri sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Yes, hello again. So the rain did arrive today. Almost everyone needing a brolly at some point during the afternoon, not just in York. A big thank you to Gary Hornby for the shots. And these hay bales, well, most of them do look at least a little bit waterproof. A fabulous project there and display at Church Fenton for the Yorkshire Air Ambulance. A big thank you to John Victor for sharing against those fairly grey skies. And yes, it started off pretty grey this morning, but dry, and then the rain nudging its way north and eastwards during the afternoon and early evening, fragmenting at times, but still with some heavy pulses, and they are now journeying their way northwards, and it will become drier and clearer as tonight progresses. The winds will ease, very gusty this evening, but easing for a time for the middle part of the night before freshening again towards dawn. But even under those clearer skies, that wind's strong enough to keep most temperatures between around 12 and 14 Celsius once more. This was at 6:15 this morning. A big thank you to Karen for the shots. 4:54 and 9:30 are your sun times for Saturday. Tomorrow, big thumbs up in terms of more sunshine around, but very strong and gusty winds, maybe in excess of 35, 45 miles an hour, maybe in exposure, certainly for the coasts and the hills at times during the course of the day, but they will readily push through the potential for some heavy and maybe even thundery showers with some hail mixed in there too. Stays pretty showery for the evening, and then as we head through into the second half of the weekend on Sunday, hopefully fewer showers, more in the way of sunshine. And 19 on there, but perhaps in the prolonged sunny spells we might get up to 21, 22, around the average for the time of year. Maybe those showers heavier into the start of next week.
Tiri sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
There you go. Not 40 days and 40 nights, but maybe 4 days at a push.
4 days.
That's 4 days too many. Although the gardens do need it.
They do, and so do the growers. Just a quick thank you to everyone, really, who came to say hello to us at the Great Yorkshire Show. It was so lovely to meet you all.
It really was. Sally Simpson's got our late news tonight, but from all of us, have a great weekend, won't you? Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.